You ever have one of those weeks where you think you know your neighborhood, then out of nowhere you find yourself living in a full-blown courtroom drama, a revenge thriller, and a comedy of errors all rolled into one? That's what happened to me. And I'm telling you, if you think your HOA has ever pulled some crazy stunt, buckle up because you haven't heard anything like this. So my name's Rob Miller, just Rob to everybody who knows me. I'm 45, used to work maintenance for a bunch of housing communities, and honestly thought I'd seen all the HOA nonsense you could imagine, neighbors fighting over mailbox colors, folks getting nasty over grass, height, all that. But nothing, absolutely nothing prepared me for what was about to unfold in my so-called peaceful neighborhood. It kicked off on a sunny Tuesday late spring, one of those days where everything looks almost too normal, birds chirping in the oaks, the lawns all neatly trimmed. I was doing what I always do, helping out neighbors fixing stuff. That afternoon, Marcia Becker, she's the kind of neighbor who bakes cookies for every holiday, knows everyone's birthday. She called me over about her busted irrigation system. The pump motor finally died, the veggies were withering, and the replacement part was a week out. So I did what anybody with a heart would do. I ran an extension cord from my garage to get her backup pump working. Nothing dangerous, nothing unsightly, just a temporary fix to keep her garden alive. But apparently reasonable people don't run HOAs. Because as I'm testing the pump, I hear these heavy footsteps behind me. I turn and sure enough, it's Frank Murdoch, self-appointed head of security, stomping through the grass like he's still a cop. The guy's built like a fridge, always scowling, parading around in a cheap uniform with a dollar store badge. He got forced into early retirement, and while nobody talks about why, you can tell the man's got issues with authority, especially when it's not his. Without so much as a hello, Frank marches over and yanks my extension cord out of the wall so hard it sends blue sparks flying and fries the outlet. Marcia and I jump back. The air smells like burnt plastic, and now there's real electrical damage, thanks Frank. And before I can even say a word, he hands me a violation notice he'd already filled out, looking way too pleased with himself. You're endangering the community, damaging property, breaking HOA rules, blah, blah, blah. Then he struts off, leaving me standing there holding a ticket for being a good neighbor. 2 days later, I get a letter from our HOA president, Deborah Lancaster, with a $300 fine attached. And get this, she'd attached a photo of my extension cord, but they doctored it to make it look like some giant industrial hazard running across the entire lawn like I was setting up a construction site. It would be hilarious if it wasn't being used to wring money out of me. And as I'm standing there steaming in my driveway, I notice a new security camera bolted to the utility pole pointed right at my house. Black lens glinting in the sun, watching everything. That thing was not there before. Now, I've lived here 8 years. I know every pole, every bush. So when that camera showed up, it was clear they wanted to catch me messing up again. But it didn't stop at the camera. 3 days after that, I get another letter, this one saying I've got to remove my solar panels. Yep. The panels I'd put in 5 years ago, fully permitted, nobody ever complained, not even visible from the street. But Deborah's letter called them aesthetic disruptions and scientifically questionable, and she was threatening $500 per day fines until I took them down. Now, I'm not an angry guy, but that made my blood boil. Frank was suddenly everywhere, taking pictures of my car, my yard, even my mailbox, wearing a body cam, like he's starring in his own little cop show. I felt hunted. One night I tried to walk off the stress, and Frank's security vehicle creeps behind me, circling the block again and again, camera clicking, headlights tracking me like a predator. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking. That's when my daughter Ashley comes in from work, sees me sitting there fuming over these letters. Ashley's 25, smart as a whip, calm under pressure. She looks at the letter, looks at me and just says, "Dad, you need to start recording everything, every interaction, every word, and you should probably get some cameras of your own." The way she said it. Let's just say you'd think she deals with high-stakes situations for a living. I took her advice, got some hidden cameras and a high-powered laser pointer. That night I aimed that laser straight at their new camera, just to make a point, you watch me, I'll watch you right back. But I knew I needed more than gadgets, so I reached out to Harold Mason. My 70-year-old neighbor, retired property lawyer, sharp as a tack. We went through the HOA bylaws together, and Harold showed me all the ways Deb and Frank were actually breaking their own rules, especially about solar panels, which were explicitly allowed, and about fines, which had to follow strict procedures they'd completely ignored. Harold said, "Rob, this isn't just annoying, it's illegal. Time to fight back." So I filed a formal complaint, made sure they got it by certified mail. I thought maybe now, finally, things would calm down. Boy, was I wrong. Deborah doubled down, organized a community safety meeting, but only invited her loyalists. She spent nearly an hour painting me as a menace, unstable, potentially violent, a danger to the community. All lies, all just to humiliate me. Then everything changed on a Thursday evening. Ashley was coming home, pulling through the gated entrance like always. Frank jumps out from behind the guard booth, stops her car, demands her ID, which, by the way, she's never had to show before. She keeps her cool, shows her license, but as she puts it away, Frank suddenly pulls a gun. Might have been a pellet gun, might have been real, but in that light it looked real enough, and aims it right at her face, flashlight blinding her. He leans in and says, "You and your old man better back off or you'll both regret it." But here's what Frank didn't know. Ashley's car has a dash cam, and it records everything: his face, his threats, the weapon, the whole scene in high-def audio and video. She comes home, shows me the footage, and I swear I've never felt such cold fury in my life. This wasn't about HOA rules anymore. This was my family, my kid being threatened with a gun because I wouldn't roll over for a pair of neighborhood tyrants. And right then, Ashley sat me down, said, "Dad, I haven't told you everything about my job. I can't go into detail, but what Frank just did, he threatened someone who takes these things very seriously. Trust me, keep gathering evidence, it's bigger than you think." And the look in her eye, well, it made me realize the rules of the game had changed. That night, I went full investigator. I requested HOA financial records, and when Deborah tried to stonewall Harold, fired off a legal letter. When I finally got the documents, what I found blew my mind. $15,000 supposedly spent on new HOA signage, but there were no new signs. Nowhere. The money just vanished. Plain old theft, hidden in plain sight. I set a trap, invited Deb over for a friendly talk, hidden cameras running. She sat on my couch and for half an hour blathered about community hierarchy, how I needed to know my place. But when I brought up the missing money, she panicked, face went pale, stammered about conceptual blueprints. Every second was on tape. Harold listened to the recording, laughed out loud, said, "You just got her confession, she's toast." But it got crazier. Frank, drunk and loose-lipped at a neighbor's barbecue, actually bragged about the fake signage scam while being recorded by a resident I'd tipped off to keep their phone handy. By the next Monday, I'd posted all the evidence, financial docs, photos, even a summary on the neighborhood bulletin board. The community went wild. People demanded action. I called for an emergency HOA meeting. The place was packed. Neighbors waving papers, shouting questions, the mood electric. As I played the video of Frank threatening Ashley, the crowd exploded. Demands for arrest, shouts for resignations, people live streaming the whole thing. Deb tried to deny everything, said the videos were deep fakes, the recordings, AI fakes, the old conspiracy against me bit. But at that point, people weren't scared of her. They were laughing at her. And that's when the doors flew open. 3 strangers walk in, 2 men and a woman in business suits, followed by 2 uniformed cops. And I saw the impossible. The young woman, hair in a ponytail, eyes like ice, was Ashley. She walks right to the front, holds up a badge, and announces, "I'm Special Agent Ashley Miller, FBI." The room went dead silent. She explained that Frank had been under investigation for civil rights violations, abuse of authority, extortion, and now, thanks to the dashcam, making criminal threats against a federal agent. Deb was being charged with wire fraud, embezzlement, the works. Cops cuffed Frank right there. Deb screamed it was all fake, but 2 agents calmly put her in handcuffs, read her rights, and led them both out while the whole community erupted in applause. The fallout was swift. Harold was elected HOA president. He brought in auditors, transparency rules, an independent grievance committee, everything. The audit showed Deb had stolen over $80,000 in total. They'll spend the rest of their lives paying it back, and prison will be their home for a while. As for me, that weekend I got to smash the last relic of the old regime, a tacky plastic HOA sign, into a million pieces with neighbors cheering me on. Marcia, the one who started all this with a garden hose, gave me a plaque, "Community, not Kingdom." You can bet I hung that up where everyone can see it. You know what? Sometimes the good guys do win when neighbors stick together, when you refuse to be bullied, when you gather evidence and fight for what's right. Sometimes justice shows up with a badge and a recording, and the bullies finally get what's coming. If you've got a story about HOAs or want to weigh in on what's right and wrong, now's your turn. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think about justice, power, and standing up to bullies, because the way I see it, every neighborhood could use a few more heroes and a little less tyranny.